what is your story? What are you doing to solve today's problems, and how did you get to where you are today?
Uh, well, I was not raised in a religious home. I went to Southern Illinois University on a football scholarship, and during between my freshman and sophomore year, my head football coach had a real radical change in his life that he contributed to Jesus Christ, which kind of baffled me because my thought of Jesus was like, a historical figure like Napoleon or something.
Yeah.
And, there was a history book written about, him. So I couldn't put 2 plus 2 together to figure out how that could change somebody. But anyhow, watched it very closely. Eventually had a very significant spiritual experience myself. My life was really turned around in some tremendous ways. And anyhow, just really felt an empathy toward college students, having come out of college, not knowing anything about God. And so I've spent the last 20 some odd years, doing ministry among college students, mobilizing them to do various things, missions trips, social justice trips, involved in all aspects of life, not just. I don't try to differentiate spiritual from secular. I think that it kind of intertwines. But so just the last 3 years, I've been on a national staff with Alpha, overseeing the development of Campus Alpha across the U.S.
Great.
My personal passion is to see more done in the area of human trafficking. And Alpha has a strong relationship with the Wilberforce movement in the UK. And we're hoping to, I think, eventually bring that agency to the U.S., but also trying to identify ministries to work with, like Call and Response, Home Foundation, and all these groups are trying to stop human trafficking. And anyhow, I just that's my heart, is just really see more done in that area. So
great. You talked about the football coach as an inspiration. Was there a moment that you decided that this is what you were going to do, or was it more of a gradual learning?
it was kind of an immediate scenario. I was kind of going through some real hell in my life, and wasn't really thinking about religion as being an answer to it. But I remember on a Saturday morning, just before our football game, at breakfast, one of the players mentioned something about a chapel service. And so I went to, I thought, hey, it ain't going to hurt me any.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get a few brownie points from the man upstairs or something. And so I decided, well, hey, I'll go check this out. And I went to the chapel service, and I walked in the room, and all of a sudden I had a very sincere, dramatic experience. I mean, I never thought about hell, ever. I mean, I raised a lot of hell, but I never thought about going to it. And I really had a major spiritual encounter, I think, with God, and a vision that hell was real, and that that Jesus had come to cancel that kind of punishment on my behalf if I would turn my life over to Him. And so by the time I got out of that room that day, I made a confession of commitment to Christ, and something really dramatic happened to me that day. I mean, usually I had a very foul mouth, especially on the football field. And that day, man, I didn't cuss one time. And in fact, I would stop myself. like involuntary reaction. And my whole looking at things and people and changed that day. So anyhow, so that's kind of my my encounter in a nutshell.
Great. You know, what we're kind of focused on with this coalition is working across traditionally defined boundaries.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've done some of that work. So we're wondering, with people, what are some ways that you've worked across traditionally defined boundaries in what you're doing?
We've done a lot of things with international students. We've developed a very large host family program here in the Chicago area in which we connect international students and government officials from various countries with American families and students in an atmosphere of friendship. We've probably connected 1,500 to 2,000 students over the last 10 years, just so that I think in many ways to try to somehow connect cultures, to try to bridge the differences between cultures. And I think that we've seen a lot of international students totally blown away by the Christians they met, because they had a totally different perspective on Christianity. I mean, they just, I don't know, I think they just saw it as American TV. All Christians were kind of, wild and crazy, and that all Americans were Christians. So, but they were matched with students and American families that, boy, they would make comments to me like, this must be what America is really like, or what, true Christians are really supposed to be like. And so I think we've seen some tremendous, things happen through that.
What are some of the challenges that you see facing young people today?
Yeah, I think it's just they're bombarded with, everything is coming at them all at once. I think there's a challenge financially in this day, which young people are really struggling to think, how am I going to make it? We've found in some job fairs where companies that normally come to campuses aren't coming, and that students are graduating without an opportunity that maybe some other generations have had. So there's that sense of I hate to say fear, but and trepidation anyhow, that I haven't seen in a long time. But I think it's also causing young people to reevaluate their purpose and their reason for existing, and self-evaluation. But I think obviously the communication level of, there's so much stuff out there that, the internet and everything is really great and advantageous in so many ways, but yet there's so many perils to it that I think that young people have to really be dealing with. So.
Great. And to follow up, what advice do you have for a young person who wants to get more involved in their community or in whatever they're passionate about? What would you tell them?
Well, I encourage young people, or I'm not on campus as much as I used to be. I work more closely with campus ministries or churches that are reaching out to young people. But I think some of the things that they're trying to encourage young people to do is make sure that when they get on campus or they're in college, that they really get connected with a community of believers, and don't get swallowed up what's happening, because it can be very lonely. I mean, if you're the only person on a hall and everybody else is going out and doing all kinds of things that in your heart are not, you don't want to do, and you don't feel it's right, but yet you don't want to sit alone. So it's important for them to really get plugged into a community and to find ways and means by which we can help them do that. I try to really encourage youth pastors to not drop the ball where young people graduate, that they're just as much under their supervision, when they're at the youth group as when they're about ready to go to college, and that they don't want to lose all that investment of time and money and effort when that person goes off, to make sure that they're really involved in that young person's life and helping them get plugged in, making sure that they're going into a church, that they found a campus ministry. So